I start talking too quickly, put your hand up and I will slow down. So I hope you understand everything I'm saying. There's two sessions. The first session is really going to be a bit of an overview. The second session is going to be much more practical in that the second session, I believe the main challenge for those that are already in the middle of their PhD or they're thinking about the PhD in the beginning is to have a very clear focus, problem and question PhD. I think if you have that, it makes everything a bit easier, as you'll see. So the second session, we will look at, I think possibly the most important method. I have quite a lot of methods to help you. The one in the practical session will probably be the most important one. So that will be in the second part. So I think that we have planned to have, I think this was set out in the advertisement, 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. We stop for a break, maybe 10:45, 20 minutes or so, and then there will be a second session after the break. Let me give you a little bit of background to this. About 5 years ago, I spent about 18 months as a mentor to 200 PhD students in the management and human resource faculty down in SUSTiP at UTM here. And as part of that, I developed some methods to help improve the problem that a lot of PhD students tend to feel a bit lost. If I was to ask you, how many of you, how much might you feel a little bit lost? Maybe I'll ask you later. But I've done quite a lot of workshops. I go to other universities, I get invitations. And I have found that these methods are very helpful. Just last week, I happened to be visiting UniMass, and I had a friend from Cambodia who said, I have two friends with a PhD in UniMass in Pitching, and they both have been doing it for 1 year, and they're really having big problems, and they're just about to drop out of PhD. So I had a meeting in the afternoon, and we used some of the same methods, and now they feel much better. They feel on track. We just have to get clear. What are you really trying to do? Where do you want to go? What's the problem you're trying to solve? If you're clear about that, everything else can come much easier. So I'm going to give you just a few points. One is I have seen research on the completion rates in all the universities in the US and the UK. Guess what is about the average percentage of average university, even the top university, to finish PhD, or put another way, who don't finish the PhD after they start. What do you think is the average percentage? It's about 50%. So 50% of people who start never finish. So it's very high. So when I was doing this 18 months as a mentor to 200 PhD students, I said it shouldn't have to be so difficult. We know some of the reason why people drop out of PhD is they're having personal problems, social problem, money problem, all these other. These are external factors. I tend to focus on the internal factor. If you have a good design, you're very clear. I mean, I use a bit of a metaphor. Doing a PhD can be a little bit like walking through the forest at midnight. You're stuck in the forest, can't see a way out of the forest. So the metaphor I use is that what we need to do is we develop a rope or a string to get out of the forest. If you can find the string, you keep following, you will finish. Not only will you finish, I really believe that if you follow these methods, you should be able to finish PhD in 6 months. You also say to me, you're not allowed to finish in 6 months. I know. The reason is that they want you to keep paying the money for 3 years. So you're not allowed to finish in 6 months. I think there is reason, but my view is, here's a typical PhD. I'll put up in a minute some diagram of a typical PhD, but I'll tell you one typical PhD. Is that a lot of people spend 1 year without really being very clear what they're doing. They don't really have a question. Some supervisor, they say, go and read. Read and read. And a lot of people go and read and get lost. I'll be telling you about the 4 ways and stages that PhD students get lost. Getting lost reading is one of the ways of getting lost. And then people start, and then they go and write the literature review over here, and then they go and collect some data over here, and then they have 3 months to finish PhD. And then they say, how do we put it all together? And they realise too late what they should have done in the beginning. This is the normal PhD. And so what normally happens is that many people spend the last 3 months trying to put together, finish the PhD. So some of them finish and some of them don't. And the ones that get sent off to examiner, if the examiner really is smart, they know what happened. They know exactly what happened. This person did a rescue job in the last 3 months to try and finish the PhD. And if they're very nice people, they have a lot of sympathy. This person has done a lot of work. They spent 3 or 4 years doing a lot of work. We have to give them the PhD. Unfortunately, a lot of examiners are not nice people. So some of them say, if you don't link it all together, we have to fail you. But some of them are very tough. So part of my method is that if you have all the connections so strong, we make it difficult for the examiner to fail you. That's a little bit of part of the method, is to make sure everything is linked together. So that's why I say if you have a clear problem, a focus and a question from the beginning, and you link everything together, especially the writing part, which I'll also be talking about today, then you should be able to pass. So I actually use the word fail-proofing the PhD, is what I do a series of workshops. In fact, I put up here, fail-proofing your thesis. And I normally do 4 long workshops. So today you are going to get, you just get an overview this morning. I'll give you an overview just to help you think about how everything fits together. And in the second part, it'll be a bit more practical about getting you to start doing this, getting the focus. Okay, before we start, are there anybody wants to ask a question about what we're doing, or what I might do just very quickly, just to help me, is that we go around, you introduce yourself, and I want you to answer 2 questions. Tell me a little bit about the focus of what your PhD is about, or you plan to do a PhD. So some of you I think are in the middle, maybe some of you at the beginning, maybe at different stages. So you can just tell me a little bit, what do you think you're doing? Second question I want you to say is, what is your main challenge at the moment for the PhD? What's your main problem? What you're doing. So let's just go around very quickly, and if you could just give me some short feedback, that will help me to think about what I say to you.
Right, good morning, everybody. Okay, my name is SUSTiP. I'm currently a PhD student. So my thesis is actually on research on national talent retention, study on these differential factors that will contribute towards achieving the national talent retention. So that is what I think I'm looking on.
Okay.
All right, then what was the second?
What's your main problem at the moment? What's your main challenge?
Main problem at the moment, I guess I've gone through those. I think I need to do the right track right now. But it took me about a year and a half just to fully understand what I was doing. So too much reading and confusing myself. So that was my problem before. Yeah. Right.
So what was the name again?
So.
Good morning. My name is Menara. I am writing about crisis management. Actually, my main problem is after reading about history, I found that the main problem in crisis management field is the preparedness for crisis management. Because all organizations, either in Western country or in other countries, reactive, not proactive. And the main problem also in all articles or all books is about culture and how to prepare the culture. And this is the problem.
All right. We'll come back to that. Okay.
Good morning, I'm Zaina from Sudan. The focus of my research on female entrepreneurship and poverty alleviation and slow microfinance. My context is going to be like Sudan.
Yes.
So my assumption is different contexts will produce different theory other than the one based on the Eastern countries.
Okay. When I say the main problem, not necessarily the problem, probably more with the process of the PhD rather than the content of the PhD. You're having a problem with the challenge of the process. So, I mean, if you are having a problem with content, you can say that too. But
Okay. My problem with the research design itself,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
everybody, I went through a lot of papers, a lot of
Yes.
PhD, so everybody got a different perspective.
I'll just make a little comment in relation to this, and I'll pick up on a couple of points. I mean, one thing for me is that it's the use of the word methodology. A lot of people think methodology means evaluation, and there's a distinction between what I call the methodology of evaluation and methodology of design. One of the big problems is almost nobody teaching methodology of design. I teach methodology of design. My argument is that how can you choose whether you're qualitative, quantitative, or methodology evaluation if you don't have a design? And unfortunately, this is what's happening in many universities. You go to a methodology course and they say, are you qualitative or quantitative person? Are you doing the statistical analysis or you're doing something else? This happens in many countries, most countries. So this is a really big issue that nobody's really teaching the methodology of design. But this is what you'll get from me. I do teach this. Okay, so.
My name is Umar. The focus of my research is on technology stress. Techno stress.
Techno stress, okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Technology stress.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. It has some components. So looking at accounting information system as the relationships between accounting information system and the components of technicians. And how it affects the accountants using accounting information.
Oh, that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah. But my major challenge now is on the population.
Population.
Yeah, that is my major challenge.
So when you say population, you mean what get the data for
That
me?
is the respondents. Those are accountants. The major challenge is for you to determine the sample size, you must know your population. That is, you must have the estimated population to determine the sample size. Therefore, how do I determine this population? One is a country where you have about 217 companies spread all over the nation.
I will focus a bit on this, on the methodology of, it's also part of the design really. It's the design of if you have a representative sample or case study group. So this is a very interesting issue. It's more to do with that as a representative, it's not so much the quantity but the quality. We'll talk about this. So also this, look at the same issue. Okay. Many people have this problem. We spend more time on this question. So in the middle of that, I didn't quite think your topic or to focus is on the. Was it the focus of your PhD?
Yes, supply chain.
Supply chain. Okay.
Yes.
My name is Razak, and I'm doing a research in the field of organization behavior and particularly applied psychology about distributed teams and resourcing effectiveness. So I want to present a model to measure effectiveness of distributed teams. My challenge is to adapt the current research models to the because it's very context based. So I want to do this study here in Malaysia. So I need to come up with a mixed method of quantitative and qualitative, so I can do a real research, because I don't want to do a theoretical research. I want it to be real. So.
Well, there's two interesting questions there that may be relevant to other people. It's whether you're using the mixed methods. For certain reason, I think it's a good idea in Malaysian context to use mixed methods for people who are doing business management, and especially what I call the human or social science areas. There's a I'll come back and talk about this a little bit later. So that was one of the issues. The other issue, sorry, what was the problem you were saying?
To measure effectiveness of distributed teams, virtual teams. Virtual team performance is already it's not a gap. I mean, it's already there. But virtual team effectiveness is a separate issue, which is a gap in the division of virtual teams and distributed teams.
Okay.
So,
Sorry, the other problem, which really, this is a very, very important one, actually really, really important for this one. The other important issue for me is how you use theory. You said you're not doing theory PhD, but actually some people argue that you have to do theory as part of PhD. So the problem is, where do you put theory in? Now, or how does theory be part of the PhD? Now, one of the biggest problems I see, especially in management business, here in the Malaysian context, I will put this on the table because actually it's actually become quite common advice that you must select a theory to do your PhD in theory. Now, I'm going to be straight up because I know this is going to be different to what you're hearing, but this is bad advice. This is very bad advice and causing a lot of problem. And what I will say is that I know that you have to deal, I have to be careful because I don't want to contradict too much your supervisors. But I think I have to put this one, I have to talk about this one because there is a way that you can do it, and I will show you the way. If you need to keep a supervisor happy, he says you must have theory. But the theory, there's two issues. I think we need to talk a little bit. One issue is where you put the theory in. Now, is it in the literature review or is it in the methodology? The way that many people are being asked to get a theory is really methodology. You're being asked to go and take a theory and test it. But actually that's not your, it's not, if you do that, it's the PhD belongs to the person who owns the theory. It's not your PhD if that's all you do, you're testing somebody else's theory. Now there's a couple of ways. So there's one issue is if you use it as a methodology, this is really a serious problem. But there is a way that you can do it. If you can adapt it, I will talk about this a bit later, that you can, there is a way, especially in business and management, because it's so common, that I will tell you, you could use it, call it methodology. Don't say vaguely, I have a theory, and I'm testing the theory. The other way you put theory in is normally in the literature review. The literature review, however, is not just you say, this is the discussion of one person's theory. You're supposed to locate, and we'll talk about literature review later, locate your PhD in all the theories. Where does it fit into the existing theories? That's what's supposed to happen in the literature review. So what I say, the way that if you really want to talk about how your research, which as you say should be empirical beginning, you should go and do it, collect data, and see what it means. And to read the theory can help you to ask the question. But the real place, if you really want to do it, is in the discussion section after you have already collected. Then you can say, if I really want to discuss further implications, so I would say that this is really where if you must use, or you want to use, or somebody tells you to use a theory, the best place is really in the discussion chapter after you have collected, and then you can say, what does it mean, and can I change the theory and have my different version of the theory? Then it's your theory. So that's one of the ways that you can do it.
Because I've been facing problems before, and I use the dictionary. So I was told that find the core theory that I could expand and all that. Actually, write on my paper. So why do we need to have a core theory? And can we just explore and
You're not supposed to have a core theory. This is very. I try to be a very diplomatic person, but on this one, I have to say what is the truth. The truth is that you must have a core theory is very, very bad advice. It causes a lot of problem.
yeah.
It's very bad advice. Now, unfortunately, it's become habit for a lot of people who are. This is what they've done in their PhD. Right? Already, that's why some people are giving this advice. They were told to do it, and now they're telling you to do it. But it's causing a lot of problem. Now, I'm not trying to, if whatever I say, somebody will still tell you, you must do for your theory. So what I'm going to tell you is the way around it. So some of the advice today is to go around some big problem. This is one big problem that if you don't go around it, it will cause you very, very big problem, and if it goes to a lot of examiners, they'll fail you. And if it goes to other examiners and they have sympathy, or they have done this themselves, okay, maybe it's not so much an issue, but it's bad design. It's really it's not proper PhD design to do that. That you go and say, I have one core theory, and I'm going to test somebody's core theory. The PhD is their PhD. You're testing their theory. What you need to do is, if you're taking a theory, you can adapt it to your situation. But even then, you should only do that after you've collected your data. You design your research first, and then you link what is the implications of adapting somebody's theory to this situation, or this example, or this context. Then that's okay if you can do it like that. But to take a core theory and say, I'm going to test somebody's core theory, this is bad. This is really bad way to do PhD design. So,
can you use the theorem to explain your own concept?
That's the discussion.
Not to discussion.
Well, we'll talk about this in a minute. I think better we come to this a bit later. But let me give you a short answer. The short answer is literature review. It has to do with the structure of the PhD. We will talk about this. So I will link the 4 ways and stages of getting lost to the 4 main parts of the PhD. Introduction is setting the context, or what's the problem, why are you doing the PhD. Literature review is to frame where do you fit into the literature. And so a lot of people make the mistake that the literature review is an annotated bibliography or discussion of a theory. That is not literature review. Literature is fitting into the literature. So there are 2 mistakes. The 2 bad ways of doing literature review is that you're discussing a theory, or one theory, not just you're linking into many theories and many references. So that's perfectly legitimate. You can mention certain theoretical context in the literature review from the examples of the literature. That's okay. But not if you're just going to discuss one theory as your literature review. That's not literature review. And it's not literature review just to give list of readings. The literature review is discussing the framework of where you fit into the literature. And I will talk to you, you should be showing from the general down to particular. You should start, this is the main area that my PhD belongs in. This is the sub-area, down to the particular problem. Or the contribution that you will make to the literature from your PhD. So we should see a structure going from the general to the particular. Inverted pyramid should be the structure of a good literature review. Well, we'll talk a bit further about this, but anyway, so, and then, as I say, the other problem is if you put it in the methodology, And some people really are using theory as a methodology, but then you have to link it to a wider notion of methodology. I will talk about methodology. In a sense, methodology is the appropriate way to collect the evidence to answer your research problem. That's really the meaning of methodology. And so, everybody's methodology of the right way to answer their question is something that is unique to every PhD. Should have their particular methodology of their PhD. So, to use just the theory as part of there is a way of doing it. I will discuss how you can do it if you must do it. I advise in most cases not to do that, but in some cases it's legitimate. So I'm not saying 100% you should not do it. There are ways that you can do it. And if you feel that you must, at least do it the right way. So I will talk a little bit later how you can do it the right way. But normally, the idea that you discuss the core theory of your PhD, I believe really should only be done if you want to do it in the discussion chapter towards the end of the PhD. After you have done the literature review, where do you fit? After you've done your data collection and analysis of what have you learned from your data collection, then you can discuss how does this link to the application of the theory to your context. Then that's legitimate, perfectly okay. You must do that. There's some bad advice. There's some bad advice being given out, and I'm going to put one thing up front here. This is above all else. This workshop is what I call a self-help workshop. One of the biggest problems I'm hearing is that a lot of people have supervisors who have no experience, or supervisors who are too busy, and many other issues. The supervisor. Therefore, I'm going to give you some straight advice here. I tried to give you a lot of advice today, but one advice is it's your PhD. Later you can blame the supervisor, but it's your PhD. In other words, part of your challenge is to teach yourself, to be the supervisor to yourself. That is really one of the biggest challenges. And, there's different roles of supervisor. Some of them are just gatekeeper to make sure you don't go too far off the track. Some of them are expert on the content. So it's also a question of how you use your supervisor. So if you become smarter to use your supervisor, they will become more helpful. So this is part of the challenge. I think it's a very, very important issue of how you deal with your supervisor. But I think the most important thing is it's your PhD. You have to deal with it yourself. You have to make the major decisions. Some of the advice you will get from a supervisor, I can speak from my experience. I can tell you my story about doing my PhD, and I will tell you, I had a supervisor who used to give some very, very good advice and a lot of very bad advice. And I had to learn which advice I have to listen to, and which I have to ignore. It took me a while to do it, but once I learned to make that distinction, I don't accept everything, because some of the advice, it's simply that they are going through very quickly to have a quick look. They won't understand what you're trying to do. So you have to take some responsibility and how you sort of work with someone. But I'll come back to my first point. This is about self-help. That you are supervisor to yourself. This is what this workshop is also about. And if you can do that, you can then also work much better with your actual supervisor. You won't have false expectation from them of what you expect from them. You'll be able to be much better to use them to help you. So this is actually good for everybody, including the supervisor. If you become a little bit more independent with what you're doing. Okay, we could talk about this for very long, but we need to very quickly just go through.
Good morning, my name is Saeed. My research, my area is about leadership style for chief information officers, which leadership style should have a CIOs make them more effective. Since CIOs, most of them are from the technical background, So, and now the CIOs, they reach the level of to meet and discuss, communicate with the CEOs, which most of them from acting, and so how they can understand each other, and also the same thing, how they can guide the CIOs, the technical, their technical staff under them, to have the same vision for the CEOs of all the other organizations. So which leadership style suit them, the CIOs, to deliver or make them help the organization.
All right, that's it's a big topic. Now, what's the main challenge you're facing?
Yeah, the main challenge that
Is the choosing? Well, it's like you want.
the CIOs, especially the CIOs, understand that they are CIOs already, or they are just taking the title of their CIOs.
But it's a little bit that you want to choose the theory or the style, at least the style first. It's better you go and do the research first, and then you discuss after about, asking people directly some questions about how they respond, maybe as the the sort of questions or surveys. We'll talk about questions versus surveys a little bit later. But when you get the feedback, assumedly you're going to go and interview or survey people, and you get some feedback. Your question should be getting them to talk about responding to different styles of leadership. Before you have to make a decision, what was the best? Actually, one of my PhD students was actually doing cross-cultural styles of leadership also, so it's a topic I know quite a lot about. But we'll come back to this sort of question later.
My name is Razak. I'm also doing my leadership on spiritual leader. So my I'm doing on spiritual with leader exchange story, and then emotional intelligence. So my problem is encouraging my component to the outcome of leader.
Okay. So the process, have you having some particular challenge, not necessarily content, but the process, the stage you're at the moment?
Encouraging my model.
Okay, so a little bit of the same issue, maybe too much putting models first before you really, okay. We'll come back to these issues.
My name is Nur Azaria. I'm doing the enterprise architecture establishment process, where I'm assessing the process of enterprise architecture establishment, particularly in public sector organization. The challenges that I face is to scope down on the topic, because initially I was focusing on the technology of the aid itself, enterprise architecture, but it happened that when I go to the field, I do some quick review. In Malaysia context, they don't have the enterprise architecture technology yet, so I have to change slightly my scope in order for me to have a better way in data collection. And also the expectation, since I'm from the practitioner field, I'm working with the government Malaysia. My government officer has different expectation. They want a working framework or something that they can use after this. But meanwhile, in academic, like what you mentioned before, it's about theory, the contribution to the book of knowledge. So I find a big gap where, from my research, I can fulfill both contribution.
I'll make one quick comment with you. This is a very typical problem. The one answer that I give is that I want to see the heart of everything. One question. What is you doing your whole PhD in one question? In that one question, it's very important to let the general and the particular, an issue in a certain area. So the words that you select, how you link them together to best express the one question is actually one of the secrets of focusing down. And I say that, my method is that when I work at the beginning of the PhD with my own student, I want them to have that in the first 20 minutes, not after 12 months. The first 20 minutes, because this is the easy part to help focus down. Then the harder work is a bit later. But so one method from today that we try everybody today at least have one question. It may not be exactly, and maybe at least you have the method. That one question will link the general and the particular. You will focus down on one issue that links to the general area that you want to do in, whether it's leadership or whatever. So you'll have experience today to try and solve a little bit of this problem, or at least how to do it, how to solve it. Because you can then go and think again and change later if you want to.
My name is Menara. My field is on online training. Online training.
Online training, okay.
Particularly on the implementation of online training in the government sectors, which is immigration, government sectors. Currently, my challenge is I'm still stuck in my research design, especially in basically determining which particular design that I'm going to use or something like that, and then whether I'm going to proceed, because if let's say I'm going to use qualitative, which particular methods that is more suitable or something like that. So I'm still stuck on my design.
Okay, as I said before, the design will be the main focus today anyway, so hopefully it will help.
My name is Hafiz. My research is regarding service failure. And then
Service failure.
Service failure, and then how company, what company can do in order to rectify the problem or correct the situation. And then my biggest problem now is regarding the research design. Because most of service failure studies or medical studies, they use experimental based approach or method. And then I have no experience in using such method. So currently I'm struggling to understand on how to use experimental based design.
Alright, so the same for you. Today we hope to address some of the challenges.
I'm Roslan Yusuf. I'm a newly registered student, just registered last month. Probably I'm the newest among you guys.
Do you want to use the mic? I think the mic.
Can you hear me up? Is it loud enough for you to use the microphone? A little bit cold, just maybe Yes.
Yeah.
Does that make it better to hear at the back? Okay, good. All right.
Okay. So, it's okay.
I can hear you. Sorry.
Okay, I'm focusing on education. That's my team of research, and my intention is to propose a strategic framework for the effective execution of innovation in Malaysian technology company. So I'm dwelling in this Malaysian technology company, particularly in terms of the scope will be within the first board, KLSE, Olympus Stock Exchange, which has 30 companies. So now I'm dwelling into which area to focus. That will become my major challenges as of now, because these 30 companies comprise from different sectors. So probably I want to focus to the sector which can contribute more to my research.
All right, good. Okay, so it's the sort of thing we'll talk about further.
Hi, I'm Dian Norman. Actually, I'm interested in a strategic issue. Actually, I'm studying the role of managerial cognition on generate new capabilities for the firm. I want to explain how this cognition of managerial at the strategic or macro level can translate to new decision about generate new capabilities at the operational level or day-by-day activities. Now I'm working on the methodologies. I have some confused at this part. Because my parameter of work that I develop can be wider or can be narrow. So at this point I'm confused about the methodology.
Well, I think that in one sense almost everybody's on design. Some people are more at the beginning and some people are more how to apply this in terms of where and who and etc. But they all sort of link together. But I think that's why design, even its methodology, applying the methodology, it really is still an issue of design to some extent. So as I say, we will come to talk about this a little bit later.
Good morning. My name is Hamdi. My focus of my page is about franchising in Malaysia. Franchising.
Okay.
So Malaysia is going towards hub of franchise for this area in 2020. So there's many areas that we need to focus on. For example, in Malaysia, we have around 700 check source. Of the 150 are not doing very well. So I need to find out what is the problem with them, what are their strategic towards the government policy in Pinchas.
Right, good. So are you having any particular challenges with?
That's a big challenge.
This is a challenge. Right. Okay.
Hi, I'm Lucia.
So
Faculty member in IBS. I'm a supervisor.
okay. So you got the foot of. Are you also doing PhD or you?
I've done my.
You've done. Well, I actually do a version of this for supervisor as well, this sort of workshop. So you'll see it's sort of a foot on the boat. It'll be interesting for you to have a perspective as a supervisor on the whole process. It'll be interesting later to see what you think. Maybe you can give some feedback.
I'm feeling and experiencing what my supervisor felt last time I did not. All the kind of questions that we can't really decide for the students, and like my own experience, just like you related earlier. At the end of second year, my supervisor said, "It's your PhD, not mine." So and I thought, oh my God, I'm all alone. Yeah, but it's really your own learning.
I think that's very important. I mean, there's a couple of other. Some other advice I have. I mean, one advice I really give is that as a PhD student, you're going to spend 3 or 4 years. There's two big questions that I say. Firstly, one is that if you're going to spend such a long time, you must be really. You must find something that's very interesting to you personally or professionally. That the outcome of what you want to achieve with a PhD can motivate you, to spend a lot of time on this. And I think that's one reason why, often the topics are negotiated with the supervisor, but I think this is very important, and I say this also from a perspective as a supervisor myself. I mean, that's one reason why, with all my students, the way that even when I do the one-on-one mentoring of some of what I do, is I tell them, it's got to be your PhD, I want you to own this, and I'm just going to be the bouncing board to help you bring out and be clearer what you want to do. It's no use me telling you what to do because you may not be interested in that. So I think this is a very, very important point of that it's ultimately it's your PhD, and for you to expect the supervisor to do everything for you is not fair to the supervisor also, as well as not being realistic. So it's interesting. It's a sort of my view of the supervision is I see myself as a supervisor, and I do quite a lot of supervision as a bouncing board. But at the end of the day, it's the student, it's their PhD, and they're the ones that have to sustain it. Anyway, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts later as we go through.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Lina. My research focus on facilitating university spin-off growth. As you see that academic entrepreneurship has been discussed and studied thoroughly for the past 20 years in UK and US. But in Malaysia it is less than 10 years. But then the rate of growth is still low. So I am here to identify what are the resources which are able to facilitate the growth of university spin-off. So my challenging is, for each of the resources, they have their own theory. So sometimes I have to focus in specific theory, but overall I have to focus for the big one. So that is my challenge. And that one also will leads me to the misleading of the marrying of two theories for the originality, contribution of the research.
Yes.
So that's the most challenging now.
We could have so we already talked a little bit about theory. I think there's another question. I mean, I don't think many people understand what theory is. We get very confused about what theory is. So I don't want to spend too much time on that today because I'd much rather focus on the design. I mean, I have a concept of we need to understand the difference between what I call big and small theories. All theories are sort of working models, but the big theories are really frameworks. and the small theories are sort of descriptions or particular specific models that relate to the big theories. And to understand that distinction, we can start to better, to talk, but just to say we have theory, it's very confusing. A lot of people mix up the big and the small theories, and how theories are just models, they're just working models, and it's one of the reasons that it tends to reinforce this big gap between the theory and the practice, the data and the theory. That if we're imposing the theory on it, that there's another concept, if you really understand, it should be what we call emergent theory. In other words, that's where we could take and locate ourselves in the big theories, which is other people's theories are the big theories, and our theories should be the small theories that contribute and which should emerge from our data collection and research process. That by the end of the PhD, we have a small theory that should come out. So whether you say you're doing theory or not, and you said you don't want to do theory, but all PhDs should have some version of a small theory component in it. So just to talk and understand what do we mean by theory. Theory is an explanation of the data, or the explanation of the model that we are applying to the data. So it's in the gap there between the big and small theories. That I don't want to talk too much. We'll come back to it a little bit later, but hopefully that helps a little bit to. You seem very intent on we must have this theoretical convergence between two different theories. We'll talk about it later. Yeah.
Assalamualaikum, good morning. I'm Farzana Kauka. My research interest at the moment is consumer behavior. I have completed my PhD journey 2 years back. I'm also a supervisor, but I want to learn from you and add on values. I'm more interested to know about mixed method.
So which method?
Mixed method. Mixed method.
Mixed method, yeah, okay. You certainly will be coming and talking about
and one
mixed
more
method.
thing, I don't know whether you know, but a CIT technique, customer incident technique.
So which technique?
Customer incident technique. There is a technique.
Customer incident,
Yeah.
okay.
Lots of consumer behavior studies, they use that, but I don't know how to do that. So if you can have some idea, you can share.
I will say this, we still, when I was thinking about having a second session after the first session, I was thinking of breaking down into smaller groups. We may still try and do that. I'm also very much aware that some people may need, let's put it this way, some people may need to have some one-on-one advice because it's much easier for me on one-on-one. And I already thought about this, and I'm happy to sort of see if I can make some time maybe next week for those people who would like to have a bit of one-on-one. That today's session we couldn't get very. I couldn't spend enough time on each person. So if we don't solve all the problems today, I will try to make maybe next week myself available if anybody wants to come and have a bit. We didn't solve all the problems today. Okay.
Okay, my name is Mutia Khalid.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm a lecturer with Asia Pacific University.
Okay.
I'm a student. I'm a supervising to one of the supervisors here.
Okay.
Okay, I'm doing a topic on the electronic marketing, adoption of electronic marketing by Malaysian SMEs.
Okay.
Okay, so actually, my problem now is like, I want to get things done on time, so I just want to get, if you can give some advice during this session on the planning to get for the data collection. The milestone, how we go about it, the techniques.
Right. I'm sure we will cover a number of things when we come back to it.
Hi, my name is Shahrul Nizam. I'm a PhD student here. My research is focusing on general enterprising tendency tests towards the entrepreneurship development here in Malaysia. So there's a lot of entrepreneurship development program, but I've discussed with my supervisor to use this GET test at the end of the session of the development.
Right. So, do you have, what's your particular challenge with that exactly?
Looking at it, GET is not that familiar here in Malaysia.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm trying to bring a new thing to the entrepreneurship development program here in Malaysia.
Oh, great. Okay. Hanif, you want to?
Okay, my name is Hanif. I'm also PhD student in IBS. I am working on game applications and adoption of game application. The reason that I choose this topic was because in US, I found that 20 billion USD has been spent on video games, and out of that 40% belongs to game applications, means almost 8 billion. So I was thinking why, my main research question is how we can help the developer in Malaysia, Asia, other countries to have this, to have share of this pie. But my big challenge, when we are talking about consumer market, because I'm looking at individual that they are interested to adopt the game application, when I'm working on consumer market, my challenge is some part of consumer market is psychology. So sometimes I go like his ocean, I start moving towards psychology. But some part belongs to business, and also I am in business school. So my supervisor or later my examiner, they need me to focus on business aspect. So I need to bring the business perspective. So it's kind of like moving to I found that most of the thing in consumer behavior, peer influence is very important. But this part comes from psychology.
I think this is one thing I've noticed over the last 10, 15 years internationally is that PhD topics are becoming more complex because the worlds are becoming more complex, and the things that connect up are becoming more clear to us. And I think that's quite normal. So we're seeing quite a lot of the overlapping of different areas. In fact, you can say a lot of PhDs belong in several areas, including several faculties. It could be in a different faculty. And that's becoming more and more normal.
Yeah, my topic, for instance, some people, they do the same topic in Faculty of Information System. Yeah. I can do it in Management Information System in IBS. But also I have the psychology. So.
One of the secrets is one part of my methods. I had a little bit of a saying when I worked with these 200 PhD students. What I found is that a lot of them would come to me and have no idea what they have no idea. So one of the things I have to try and do is I have to get them talking to bring up so I can help them, because sometimes we're too close. We can't see what we... So somebody else, sometimes they can see outside. And I become quite good at it. I can help in 15 minutes to try and... That doesn't always succeed, but I often can put my finger on what people really want to do. By getting them to talk about it, and then I can see because I'm outside. That's what a supervisor or mentor should be able to do. I think there's another question, another related question here is, so part of the secret side, the other thing is that I have a lot of people who have no idea, I have a lot of people who have 100 ideas. And it's the same issue that I have to get them to prioritise out of those 100 ideas, the one that was most important, because sometimes there's too many ideas and it's too complicated. So one of my secrets of design is prioritising. I have what I call a pyramid model, that the one at the top of the pyramid should be the most important priority. But that should also relate to some questions of why you want to do it. Why is this important to you? And I also give the advice, not just that it should be interesting, but you should be thinking about, so you should be thinking to do something that will, I believe, help you in the future. Either help you to get a job, help you to become more employable, or even better, especially in the things like business, and I do, especially I'm focusing on policy studies, is my main area now. And in policy studies, I want people to produce solutions that will be useful for the real world. And so this idea that we just do the PhD to collect some data and show we can do some statistics, a lot of people finish up a PhD and that's all they've shown. They haven't got any real outcome beyond that. That's why, for me, it's very important to have a useful, interesting outcome that also hopefully might help you get a job. I think it's important to think about that. And that's also becomes one of the questions in your case about where do you locate yourself? What's more important for you, business or information technology? If you really wanted to be more in information technology, maybe it's better you go and do the PhD in a different area where you focus more on that. But if it's business, well, you can have both. I have a saying, but if you have two problems or two outcomes that you want to achieve, and you don't really reconcile it properly, it's a bit like I use sporting metaphor. So I play a lot of golf, and in golf, if you can't make up your mind which club to use, you often mess up the shot. So better you be decisive about one, than being stuck in between two and you can't choose between the two. That's called prioritising. And prioritising is very, very important, I think, for everything, including the PhD. Okay, we've gone around everybody. I've got now a little bit of an overview. I can see a couple of particular areas and also some of the topics. Let me make also a further comment. My background is very, very interdisciplinary. Business is not my main area, it never has been, but I've worked a lot with business management students. And I have to say at the moment, I'm writing a very, very big paper on sustainable business, where I'm covering the 100 years of all the theories on systems views of business in relation to innovation, management, leadership, all the main areas of business. And so I actually have very good coverage of all the areas. I've worked with a lot of students in many of these topics already, and so even though it's not my main area, I've always had very strong interdisciplinary background, including the theory, including the practice, and that's why it wouldn't really matter if I didn't. The advice I give to you wouldn't really matter, but hopefully I can give you some extra comments because I also have a little bit of an interest in some of the topics that you've been telling me. Including, for example, I spent many years, I actually was in education, and use of technology in education was one of my areas of expertise, e-learning, and so use of IT. So some of the topics that relate to that also I have quite a bit of knowledge about. But it doesn't really matter if I didn't, because it's really the process that I want you to focus on. Now we spent about an hour just sort of, hopefully a little bit of a background. Now I just want to go through, this, as I say, this is meant to be more an overview. And then after we have a stop for the break, then we really particularly focus on the design aspects very specifically. So let me get started. 4 ways and stages of getting lost, and then towards a solution to the problem. That's the basic structure of what I'm going to give you an overview on. 4 ways and stages that many doctoral candidates get lost. So I've talked about, and this is reflecting the structure of the 4 different parts, but it's also, for many people, it's this one here about getting lost reading because they never even got here. So in a way, this is progressive. My advice is we should have the topic first before you start the reading. But you'll see, in a typical PhD, I read it as an examiner or just somebody giving advice,